Welcome everyone. In this tutorial, we are going to explore Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Compute Service, which is commonly known as OCI Compute. So by the end of this session, you will understand what OCI Compute is, why it's important in cloud environments, and how you can launch and manage virtual machines on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So we will start with the basics and then move step by step through creating a compute instance, configuring networking and storage, and finally connecting to the server securely. So whether you are a beginner in cloud computing or preparing for cloud certification, so this tutorial will give you practical hands-on understanding of OCI compute service. So without wasting any further time, so let's get started and dive into the world of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Compute Service. So in this lecture, we will start with the understanding of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or OCI. So what is OCI? We will see that, and then we will get an overview of OCI compute service, and then we'll discuss the benefits of cloud computing, and finally explore some use cases of the OCI compute in the real world example. So this session will be covering all these four items. So let's first understand what Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or OCI actually is. So OCI is actually Oracle's cloud computing platform. So that provides services like compute, storage, networking, databases, and security over the internet. So instead of managing the physical servers in the database, in the data center, so organizations can use OCI to run the applications and the workloads in the cloud with high performance, security, scalability, and cost efficiency. So this is basically a cloud computing platform, so which help us to use these kinds of services. So other cloud vendors are like all these. This is the list of all the other vendors that provide cloud computing services. So Oracle is one of them. So other vendors like AWS, Google, Microsoft. So all these are the other vendors that provide similar kind of services. So in OCI, so we have various types of services. So these are IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. Then we have PaaS, platform as a service. Then we have software as a service. So in IaaS, so here we procure, we rent the so these all these services are actually rented over the internet. So we access all these services over the internet and we rent from the cloud vendor. So in IaaS, infrastructure as a service, so we rent servers, networking capacity, and storage. So all these services are provided by the cloud provider. So we just have to rent it out. We have to pay for the amount of service we consume. So rest all of the other things are managed by the cloud vendor only. So in case of platform as a service, so we are not concerned with the backend servers, networking, storage. So all these are managed by the cloud vendor only. So we can choose like all these, we can choose the type of services we will be using in a platform as a service. So all these things will be managed by the cloud vendor. So then we have a software as a service in which we just simply access the application, and rest all of the services, all the backend things are managed by cloud vendor only. So if we take example of infrastructure as a service, so in that, so as we know, like we will be renting out servers, storage, networking, and virtual machines. So here we have to manage the operating system, application, and the data. So all these things will be managed by us. Rest everything is managed by the cloud vendor. So cloud vendor will basically manages the physical hardware and the data center. So you can imagine this as like a renting an empty apartment, so in which the building owner will provide you the building, electricity, and water. So what you have to bring? You have to bring your own furniture, your TV, your kitchen items, all these things. So similarly in IaaS, so cloud provider gives you the infrastructure and you set up everything else. You can choose your what type of operating system you want to use, whether it's a Linux, AIX, Windows. So, what will be the capacity of your computer system? That means the virtual system. So, you can decide that. So, that's what the IaaS infrastructure as a service. So, the example of cloud providers which provide these IaaS is like OCI. So another vendor is AWS, which provide EC2, and we have Microsoft Azure virtual machines as well. So those vendors also provide similar kind of services. So IaaS is basically best for IT administrators, large companies, and custom applications. So for these types of use cases, you can use the IaaS facility. So next service that we get from cloud computing is platform as a service. So in which we get a ready-made platform to build and run the application. So in that, so cloud providers will manage your servers, operating systems, runtime, and infrastructure. So you have to just only focus on writing the code, deploying the application. So just like the layman example, so you can think this just like a fully equipped kitchen. So in that you don't have to worry about the gas connection, the kitchen setup, appliances. So only thing you have to manage is you just have to cook the food. So that's what similarly in PaaS. So provider manages the technical setup. So developers focus on building the applications. So that's what the PaaS is. Example of PaaS is like Google App Engine, so OCI platform services like OIC, and we also have other vendor like Microsoft, which provides Azure App Services. So those are the platform as a service in which you are given a platform and you have to write your own things. And these are best for your for developers, application development, and for the faster software delivery. The last and the next we have software as a service. So as the name suggests, so we are getting the software as a service. So we are directly using the software over the internet. So no installation, no infrastructure management. So everything is managed by the uh, provider. So the common example is like we use Netflix. So Netflix is nothing but it's a software as a service. So we don't have to manage the servers, software updates, the storage. So we are just simply using the application. So similarly in SaaS, so users simply log in and use the software online. So example of SaaS in real world is like from Oracle we have Oracle Fusion Cloud, which is a financial or like supply chain applications. So we simply use the application. So we have Google Gmail, Google Gmail, so in which we use the messaging services. So we have Microsoft Office 365. Another example is Salesforce CRM. So all these are like software as a service. So in a simple term, in one line, so what we can say that IaaS is like renting the infrastructure. So when you rent the infrastructure, so that is a IaaS service. So PaaS, in which you rent the development platform, so in which you will code from yourself, so but you will not be bothered about the backend infrastructure. So that is a platform as a service. So SaaS, software as a service, so it's a use and you use and it's a ready-made software which is available online. So this is a overview, or we can say the architecture of Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So the basic at the core level, so we have realms. So realms is the logical grouping of multiple regions. So region is nothing but it's a geographical area So like we can have regions in India, we have regions in US, UK, Europe, Japan, and many more. So we can have multiple regions in our tenancy in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure tenancy. So for example, in this particular region, so the next level that we have in OCI is the availability domain. So one region can have multiple availability domains. So regions are like separated from each other. So then we have the availability domain. So these are the physical data center which are miles apart. So for example, in US, so we have US Ashburn, we have three availability domains. So like that, we have various regions in which we have multiple availability domains. So these are the physical data centers separated from each other, miles apart. And within one availability domain, so we have three fault domains. So each availability domain will have three fault domains. So these are the logical grouping of the data centers. So availability domain is the physical data center, and this is the logical data center within each AD. So one region can have more than one availability domain or ADs, and it can also be possible that one region has only one availability domain. But the fault domain, so for each AD, we have three fault domains. So this is how the OCI architecture looks like. So at the bottom we have uh, regions, then we have ADs, then we have FDs, which are fault domains. So next we will talk about the overview of cloud computing services. So OCI Compute lets you create and manage the virtual machine in the cloud. So you don't have to manage the physical server, you just have to rent out the machine over the internet, and you can choose from various shapes and configuration that suits your requirement. And these compute services provide you flexible instance management options, storage options, and high availability. So all these are the features of our Oracle Cloud Compute services, and you can choose whatever the shape that you would like according to your requirement. Like if you need more performance intensive machine in which you need more RAM, you need more processor. So in that case, you can choose according to that. So we have various shapes and instance types in the OCI. So you can choose from that according to your requirements. So when you rent out the OCI compute, so what actions you can do? So first is you can access securely over the internet. So if it's a Linux machine, you can use the options like SSH. If it's a Windows, you can directly log in using RDP. So you can access your virtual system, securely over the internet. So you can also restart the instance. So for applying the changes or recovering from issues, or once you refresh your environment, in that case also you want to restart, you can perform those operations from Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Console. So with OCI, so you get the console so that you can directly access. From there only you will rent out all these resources. You can also attach volumes. So volumes are like storage blocks, block volumes we say. So you can add for expanding the storage and its capacity. And once you don't need more storage space, so in that case you can also detach the volume. So which means that for a given compute system, so you can attach more than one volume, and once your task is performed, you don't want to use those, and in that case you can detach those volumes. And also once you are done with your task, you can stop it, and even you can terminate it. So terminating the instance is just like deleting the instance, and stopping is that you stop for some time, and after that, once you need it again, you can start it. So these are the operations that you can perform when you procure, when you rent the compute system. So OCI offers two types of virtual machines. So these are like bare metal and virtual machine. So these are the two compute types. So bare metal, which means that in that you get dedicated physical server access for the highest performance, and that's a strong isolation. So that particular system will be only given to you instead of, because OCI works on concept of virtualization. So you can have one system, you can virtualize it, and you can share it with the multiple customers or vendors. So but when, if you want, you can rent out a dedicated physical server, and that is known as bare metal. And another thing that we have is virtual machine, which is like again runs on the top of a physical bare metal hardware. So you get a share of that physical server. So it can be possible that whatever the virtual machine that you have, so it is from some bare metal device hardware, and on that particular device also there is some other customer which is using the share of that hardware. So that is called virtual machine. So it is based on the concept of virtualization, so that you can run multiple virtual machines on a single server. So these are like virtual machines are ideal for running the applications that do not require very performance and resources like CPU, memory, network, bandwidth, and storage for the entire physical machine. So in that case, you can use a virtual machine. So also this is very useful so that OCI, because you have to rent the machines, so you have to pay the price for whatever the capacity that you use. So bare metals are very costly, and if you compare it with the virtual machine, virtual machines are less costlier. So because it shares the physical server with other customers. So these are the like we have various shapes for Oracle Compute service. So like you can have different types of CPUs, memory, and network resources. So on the basis of different these type of resources, so we have these shapes. So we have standard shapes, we have dense IO shapes, we have GPU shapes, and we have flexible VM shapes. So, what are standard shapes? So, these are the shapes in which the compute, the storage, and the bandwidth is already fixed. So, you just have to choose from that. So, it's already defined. So, it has, like, for example, basically it works on OCPU model, that means Oracle CPU. So, you can rent out one virtual machine with, for example, four OCPUs, like 16 gig of RAM and network bandwidth. So different types of shapes are there. You can choose from that. So, but you cannot choose the OCPU count in that. And then we have the dense IO shapes. So these are like kind of virtual machines only, but with uh, more capacity on OCPUs and bandwidth. And then we have the GPU shapes. So these are like in which uh, this is for those application or use cases in which you need the GPU processing, like all the AI things, so in which you need more performance. So for that we have the GPU shapes. And flexible VM shapes are those shapes in which you can customize the OCPU and the bandwidth and even the storage. So those are the flexible VM shapes. So next we have what are the benefits of cloud computing. So the first benefit is scalability, which means that scaling up or down based on the demand. Cost efficiency. So in OCI, so we pay for what we use. So it's a hourly billing model. So whatever, how many hours we use, so we will be going to pay for that only. High availability, so built-in redundancy and reliability. Agility, so rapid provisioning and faster time to market. And security, which is strong security and compliance by the design. So basically, if we talk about scalability, so there are two types of scaling that we have. We have vertical scaling and we have horizontal scaling. So in simple terms, so for example, if more data or more user come to OCI, so what we can do, so OCI can increase the resources, and if the workload decreases, so OCI can reduce the resources. That is what scalability, which is ability of the system or the application to handle the increasing or decreasing workloads, so by adding or removing the resources, which can be automatic or manual. So in case of horizontal scaling, so we add or remove the resources, that is horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling, so in which we can increase the capacity of our system. Like for example, today if we have our virtual machine with 8 GB of RAM, so tomorrow we can increase it to 16 GB. So that is the vertical scaling in which we increase the capacity of our system. That is vertical scaling. So cost efficiency, as we know, it's a hourly based model, pay per users model. So whatever we use, we will be going to pay for that only. So then we have the high availability. So high availability means like designing a system in a such a way that so that application and services continue to run even when the hardware, servers, or the entire data center fails. So that is the high availability. So your application will be available even if there is any downtime or because of service disruption or some disaster which is happening. So that is the high availability. So in OCI, so all the resources are highly available. So you design, you provision in such a way that uh, all your resources will be highly available. Like we have seen that we have ADs. So we have multiple ADs. So what you can do, you can place your resources in multiple ADs so that if one physical data center fails, so other one is still running up and running. And even if the one AD in within one AD, so we have fault domain, which is again logical grouping of our data center. So with fault domain also we maintain the high availability. So next is the agility, so which is the ability to react quickly. So that's what we call it as agility. So when we are renting and when we are changing our resources, when we are scaling up and down, so that's like whenever it's needed, then only we will make the changes. So instead of permanently buying and managing everything by yourself, so we automatically switch those things. So that is the agility. So in OCI, so agility it provides fast provisioning. So you can create virtual machines, databases, networks. So within minutes. So we have elastic scalability. So you can like grow or shrink depending on the usages. So for example, on normal days, so two servers can be up and running. And in case of peak season like Diwali season, Black Fridays in that time, so you can scale it up, like you can have like 10 servers or 20 servers, and that's again automatic, which is again automation which supports the agility. And again global availability, which means that all the resources are globally available. So we have regions, so we have regions in UK, we have regions in US, India, and many more. So we have the entire globe facility. So like you can decide like where you want to, from where you want to procure, or where you want to place your resource. So that you can decide. And again, it's a pay per users model. So whatever you consume, you will pay for that. So last is the security. So that is the in its design only, so which is by the design all the OCI services are secure. So, so we have features like the main security layers in OCI is like identity and access management. So with IAM, so which is identity access management, you can control who can access the OCI resources and what actions they can perform. So, for example, one user can have access to your OCI console, but still may not be able to procure or rent out the resources because of the permissions. So that is identity and access management. So normally we provide admin user the access to create the servers. We give the developers to only deploy the application or create the application. And we, for example, like if we have the finance team, so they can only view the billing. So that's the identity and access management. So we also in OCI we support network security. So we have various controls like we have security lists, we have network security groups, we have firewalls. So we can decide like which ports are open in security list. We can define that. So we can open the ports in network security groups. So we can decide like which all network security groups can access what ports. So we can designate, we can assign one, two, or three compute machines a similar network security group. And we have encryption in OCI, like that means the data address is encrypted, and that's again so that nobody can even if they get the access, they cannot steal your data because of the encryption. So we have compartments, so which is again the logical grouping of the resources within the OCI. Just like in our computer system, we have folders, we have drives and folders. So we place our files in those folders. So similar to that, we in OCI we have compartments. So you can put the resources in the compartments, and then on the compartment level you can again put the security so that only few user can access the compartment. So that kind of isolation and control you can have in the OCI. So we also support multi-factor authentication so that a user can use the password, even they can use the mobile authentication OTP application, so which prevents the unauthorized login. So other features like we have web application firewalls, so which prevents SQL injection, DDoS attacks. So those kind of things can be managed. So we have cloud guards, so which is running securely every time, and it provides security against suspicious activities like you are using weak passwords. So those kind of policies you can put, and you can still be safe from those kind of attacks. And in OCI, so we have a shared security responsibility model. So which means that not only that you have to secure your sources through IAM and policies. So even Oracle secures your resources, like Oracle secures your physical data center. They secure hardware, your cloud infrastructure, and networking. So all these things are secured by Oracle, and even with other vendors also. That's a cloud provider's responsibility to secure all these. So security in OCI, like physical security in the basis, or like we have fences in our data centers. We have like authentications, access, like nobody can access the secure zones. So they have to identify themselves. They have to use the fingerprints. Those kind of things are in the data centers. So when it comes to the customer, so customer they secure the user account. So like you should not be sharing your password with others, and you will be securing your applications, your data access and password and the policy. So that is what we call as a shared security responsibility model. So these are the few use cases of OCI compute service. So like OCI compute can be used for web and application hosting. You can use it for development and testing environments, and you can have data processing and analytics applications. You can deploy enterprise applications, and it can be high performance computing. For example, you have AI workload. So in that case, you can rent out the OCI Compute servers. So you can choose the shape like GPU based or dense IO, which are like big machines. And also, in case of disaster recovery and backups, you can have the OCI Compute servers placed so that in case of any disaster, so you will have your system backed up. All right, so in this current tutorial, so what we have discussed, so we have discussed basically what is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI. So we have discussed the OCI, the architecture of OCI. We have discussed the overview of OCI compute servers and what are the benefits of the cloud computing and what are the use cases of OCI compute. So thanks for watching this video.